Hello, hello. Hi, everybody. Hi, everybody. Happy Passover. Happy Easter. Wish you all good things this weekend. Hope the weather cooperates and that everybody has a nice and safe and enjoyable time. Today's poll question at Smerconish.com is going to require some explanation. I'm going to enjoy giving you that explanation. Should we hope possible life forms on exoplanet K2-18b have religious beliefs? Come on, Michael. What is that all about? I'll explain in just a moment. Tonight is comedy night at Parks Casino in Shippensburg. Thank you, Parks Casino. The fabulous Kenny Robinson headlines tonight with the special guest Karen Kunick at 8 p.m. The show is free. Go mingle at Parks. Live music every Saturday night in the Side Pocket. This Saturday, tomorrow night, the duo Newman Day takes the stage. Get lucky in no time at Parks Casino, Shippensburg. Exit 29 off Route 81 in central Pennsylvania. Parks Casino is my casino of choice. Take my recommendation. Check out all the action, the entertainment, the excitement that they have to offer. Parks Casino, Shippensburg in central PA, 100% smoke-free, less than an hour from Harrisburg, the state capital. Inside, 500 state-of-the-art slot machines, 48 live dealer electronic table games, blackjack, roulette, all the fun stuff, slot machines. And by the way, show your military veteran ID and get a free hot dog lunch with chips and a soda as a thank you from Parks Casino every Monday. Every Tuesday is the 50% golden discount. Parks Casino, Shippensburg, close to Hagerstown, Maryland, Chambersburg, Pennsylvania, Martinsburg, West Virginia, and many, many more. Get lucky in no time. Mingle with people at Parks Casino off Interstate 81 in Shippensburg. Visit parkscasino.com. Got to be 21. Gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. Well, thank you so much for joining me on this Good Friday. Happy Passover, happy Easter. I've got a poll question today that I think is suited for the day. You know, just perfectly timed for being in the midst of Holy Week and great relevance as well to the news of the day. But let me get into it this way. Yesterday's poll result, 37,279. Does President Trump benefit politically from all of the following: fighting Harvard, not facilitating the return of Abrego Garcia, and reducing the IRS workforce? I say that he does. As a matter of fact, I've written a commentary to deliver tomorrow on CNN, hoping that there's no breaking news today, where I'm going to make that case as I've done on radio. But I was in the minority. 66.23% say no, Trump's not benefiting politically from each of those. Remember my argument. I say he's on the wrong side of them, but that he derives political benefit. He's 0 for 3 and he's 3-0. Actually, that's a good way to begin the commentary on television. So where else have we been this week? Let's see. We asked the question, do you agree or disagree with Bill Maher? A crazy person doesn't live in the White House. A person who plays a crazy person on TV a lot lives in the White House. 62% disagreed with that. Another poll question this week. Answer the question recently asked by RFK Jr. If you're smoking 3 packs of cigarettes a day, should you expect society to pay when you get sick? 62%, interestingly, like the same margin, said no to that. Tax day. Should the IRS audit taxpayers of all income levels with equal frequency to ensure fairness and transparency? 56% said yes to that. Followed by, should federal funding be cut from universities like Harvard in response to perceived failures in addressing campus anti-Semitism? 82% said no, don't cut the funding. All right. I get it. You're saying, Michael, come on, you're on the POTUS channel on Sirius XM, all that political stuff. It makes sense that would be a poll question of the day. Tell me again, what is the Friday? What is the Good Friday poll question? Should we hope possible life forms on exoplanet K2-18b have religious beliefs? And for me to explain this to you, I have to go back 19 years. Because 19 years ago, I was doing morning drive in Philadelphia, terrestrial radio, 1210 a.m., the big talker, WPHT. Wake up at that time was either 2:45 or 3. 2:45 or 3. Like, look at me now. Hey, I get to sleep an extra 90 minutes because I get up at 4:30. But my routine at that time, I'm just sort of picturing myself back in that day 19 years ago. I was driving my F-150. I was wearing often my cowboy boots. I was listening to a lot of Toby Keith. It was W's second term. And although I was still on that bus, I was increasingly uneasy with the way that we were pursuing the war on terror because we had taken our eye off the ball relative to bin Laden and Ayman al-Zawahiri. And I was probably most days, if weather permitted, wearing my 9/11 never forget bomber jacket. And so I would drive to work to go deliver the terrestrial radio program. TC would meet me, of course, in the studio. My routine is that I would stop at Wawa. That hasn't changed, although it was a different Wawa at that time. And my custom was to listen to the BBC because I liked the accents and the presentation of the international headlines. And 19 years ago, driving to deliver a morning drive radio program, not yet in syndication, there was a story that I heard that hooked me. And I found it. I did a quick search and I found the story. The summary says Earth like planets around distant stars may be too far away to be reached by spacecraft, but scientists could still investigate whether they harbor life. Telescope technologies are being developed that will probe the very faint light from these objects for telltale signs of biology. These are the same life markers known to be present in life reflected off the Earth, so-called Earthshine. They include signatures for water and gases such as oxygen and methane. And then there's a chief scientist at NASA, Wesley Traub, who says this gives you some information on habitability. These are only signs of life. They are only indicators. You can't actually detect life crawling or sliming around on the surface of the planet. He told the American Geophysical Union Joint Assembly in Baltimore. So I hear that story. You have the picture of me in the pickup truck driving down the expressway, Wawa cup in hand, listening to the BBC, en route to do a 3-hour morning drive radio program. And this idea pops into my head 19 years ago. Do we want them to be religious? I don't know why I thought in those terms, but that was the thought that I had as I listened to the BBC. And I know that I went to work that day and I hit TC with this and talked about it on radio. I frankly don't remember the reaction of the audience. I wish I had the tape. It would be fun to hear it and to play it for you just to sort of flesh it all out. And from time to time, here on Sirius XM, I will reference that story I saw nearly 20 years ago that made me wonder if there's something out there, ET phone home. Do we want them to be religiously grounded? And now, today, again, I find myself asking this question. Why? Well, you've heard the news because there's been some recent scientific discovery. It seems to follow up that of 19 years ago. Carl Zimmer in the Times wrote it this way. The search for life beyond Earth has led scientists to explore many suggestive mysteries, from plumes of methane on Mars to clouds of phosphine gas on Venus. But as far as we can tell, Earth's inhabitants remain alone in the cosmos. Now, a team of researchers is offering what it contends is the strongest indication yet of extraterrestrial life, not in our solar system, but on a massive planet known as K2-18b that orbits a star 120 light years from Earth. A repeated analysis of the exoplanet's atmosphere suggests an abundance of a molecule that on Earth has only one known source: living organisms such as marine algae. Story's getting a lot of attention. We have it in the newsletter today on this Friday from a scientific publication. And it's fun to think about. And of course, again, I'm wondering, do we want them to be religious? Now, there's no them. I don't want to misstate this. I'm taking some liberties. But scientists are saying, like, hey, this is a basis for a life form on a very distant planet. And that's why I'm asking, should we hope possible life forms on exoplanet K2-18b have religious beliefs? And I imagine your arguments are going to break along the following lines. Those who say, yeah, we do, because we want to have shared values. And religious beliefs could share a moral and ethical foundation with whatever that life form might be. It's also an existential connection. A spiritual framework could offer a common ground for understanding light years from here. Cultural exchanges are another that I thought of, because religious beliefs could enrich cultural exchanges, lead to a deeper appreciation of diverse views. And of course, I think the best argument, and I know what some of you are thinking, like, oh, Michael, it's the reverse of that as well, the moral compass. Do I think you need a moral compass grounded in religion to lead a proper life, a life that's morally bound? I don't think religion is necessary, but I think that it can help. I think that having religious beliefs indicates a desire for the structure of society predicated on treating others, yes, I'll say it, as you wish for them to treat you. And others will undoubtedly say, Michael, it's going to lead to conflict. I mean, what about all the religious war? What about the Lebanese civil war? What about the Bosnian war? What about the troubles in Northern Ireland, the Iranian Revolution, the ongoing situation between Israel and the Palestinians? I get all of that. I get the view that some will say that we don't want them to be religious because it'll lead to conflict. To which I think the response is to say, well, distortions of religion, or people not adhering to the tenet of the faith lead to bad things, but not religion itself. What else? What else, if I'm being fair and trying to argue this two ways, might people say in coming to the conclusion, we don't want them to be religious because they're going to want to impose their beliefs, because everybody who is wants to impose their beliefs on everybody else. I get it. I mean, those are all some of the arguments that are out there. Now, the part of this that might interest you the most, because as I've thought about it, my answer has changed. My answer, if the poll question, we didn't have a website. I don't even know if Al Gore had invented the internet 19 years ago. But if I answered that question on air 19 years ago, my answer would have been, do we want them to be religious? No. And why would I have said that 19 years ago? 19 years ago, 2006, we would have been, if my memory's right, we would have been like 4 or 5 years removed from the break point of the revelations about the church. I'm speaking of the Archdiocese in Boston and that whole Spotlight investigation. Have you ever seen that movie? That's an unbelievable movie. True story based on the Boston Globe investigation that brought down the cardinal and brought down the church in many respects. And that deeply impacted me. That shook my belief in institutions. Really did. And I haven't forgotten it, obviously, but with the passage of time, I've become more open-minded to the good that comes from organized religion. I'll tell you something else. John Kasich is on today's program in the third hour, having authored a book called Heaven Help Us. And I read the book and I really appreciate the book. It is a book where Kasich talks about difference makers supported by religious institutions. In other words, good deed doers. I'll give you an example. Those who are proximal to me in the Philadelphia area, Sister Mary Scullion, and all of the work that she's done at Project Home, an example of someone who gets a chapter in Governor Kasich's book to say, here is a person who has done good things in the context of a religious foundation. And I believe that. I also believe that religion, as I described, gives rise to conflict, or people who try and bend the will of others by a distorted view of their faith do so. But there's a lot to be said for involvement, not the least of which is mingling. I mean, whether it's a mosque, whether it's a synagogue, temple, whether it's a church, Quaker Meeting House. I love the way the Quakers do it. Love the way the Quakers do it, as a matter of fact. I love just people getting on their feet and speaking and so forth. But where is there a better opportunity for mingling? And you're saying to me, well, Michael, I thought the whole purpose of the mingling project writ large was to be among people who are unlike. It's to be among people, first of all. And because you're of the same faith doesn't mean that you have a great deal of other things in common. I think it's a great place just to be out and about among others. And truth be told, I've been doing it more and more myself in a religious context. One of my friends has recently suffered an unspeakable tragedy. And so I've known him for 30 years, he and his wife. I don't want to get sidetracked, but I want to tell you that a group of us, small group of us, three of his friends, myself and two others, wanted to be and comfort our good friend. We decided that last Sunday we would take a walk. We were going to take a walk on a nature trail, but we didn't meet at the nature trail. Instead, we met in church. I know that sounds unusual, right? To use church as a place where you'd meet up, but we did. We went to mass. And then after mass, we took the walk on the nature trail, and it was terrific. It was really great. And it was a wonderful feeling of communion, I guess, to be among friends and to be in church and to have that experience while someone is really going through a tough time. Okay, final word on this. I know you're saying this is unbelievable. This poll question today on Good Friday. Don't misunderstand what I'm saying. I'm still finding my way. I am not here to preach. You know why? I don't have the insight. I don't have the knowledge to preach. I just know that I like the association that comes with faith. I enjoy being among people who are not necessarily like me. I enjoy listening to homilies. I like sitting for an hour where that phone has to be off. I am among people, and that phone, no, you can't peek. I always am afraid that it's going to be like a Curb episode and my phone's going to go off. It never does, thank God. But I think it's a good thing. It doesn't matter to me of what faith you might be. I mean, that's obvious, right? But I'm just saying, I think there's something to be said for being a part of some belief system. So 19 years ago, I would have answered it one way, and today I'm going to answer it a different way. What is that crazy question that Michael is asking on Good Friday? It's this: should we hope possible life forms on exoplanet? I can't say it with a straight face because it just sounds so wacky. Do we want them to be religious? Should we hope possible life forms on exoplanet K2-18b have religious beliefs? Vote on that question at Smerconish.com. Like and subscribe. Set yourself up for notifications, and have a great holiday, whatever it is that you're celebrating. Happy Easter. Happy Easter.